It began as a shrug, Maya tossing her hair, rolling her eyes at me across the kitchen table and saying, "Stop being so controlling, Liam. It's just one dinner with my ex," as if the words themselves could tidy up months of distance between us. For a long time I'd been patient, I'd shelved my worries and called them insecurities, I'd picked my battles and told myself marriage was about weathering tides, but the laugh in her voice that night landed like a stone in my chest because it was not the first time she dismissed my questions with a joke or a curt, "You worry too much," and I realized patience had turned into permission. I didn't explode. I didn't throw dishes or fling accusations. I'd learned the hard way that drama gives people the chance to play the victim, and I wanted none of that theater. Instead I listened, quietly, deliberately, while she described the catching up she claimed she needed and the closure an ex apparently deserved. She kissed me quickly at the door and left, that same confident smile she used when she wanted me to believe everything was fine. She thought she'd bought herself a harmless evening. What she bought instead was the beginning of the end. I spent the next hour in the living room staring at the photograph of us on our wedding day, she in a white dress, laughing with eyes that looked truly happy, and I wondered when her laughter had stopped being for me. The answer was a list, late nights that weren't work, small lies about client dinners, messages she erased when I entered the room. The list was not dramatic, but it was honest, and I started doing the sensible things that men rarely dramatize on TV, things like backing up our finances, changing passwords, making copies of important documents and storing them in a safe deposit box, and quietly consulting with Laura, a calm divorce attorney my neighbor recommended. Not because I wanted to leave, but because I wanted options that preserved my dignity. I set up a new bank account for household essentials, arranged for legal counsel to secure our assets if things went south, and I began to document every missed explanation, every suspicious text, a photograph she sent that blurred faces too close. I told no one except my sister Claire, who was blunt and steady and who'd always known Maya's tendency to flirt for the thrill of attention. Claire became my informal witness and sanity check, not to strip Maya of anything, but so that if I needed to untangle the web, I would have the facts and not only feelings. The day she left for dinner, I went on with my evening, walked the dog, read a few pages of a book, ordered pizza and pretended to watch TV, because I refused to be a man whose life spun wildly with every rumor. Instead I saved my energy for what mattered, clarity. Around 9 she texted a picture, 2 wine glasses and a caption that meant nothing. At 10 she sent a cropped selfie where a man's shoulder was visible in the reflection. At 11:15 the small, poisonous thrill of discovery hit me like cold water when my curiosity pushed me to open my email and see a calendar invite she'd forgotten to decline. I didn't send it to her or blast it to the family. I printed it, I saved it, and I folded it into the file I'd started under the header, simply, for reference. When she came home late and smelled faintly of another cologne, she expected dramatics. She didn't get them. I held the mail and the photos in my hand like a patient person holds a sleeping infant, gently, because I wanted no more damage than necessary. "You're late," I said, as if asking about time were the only important thing. She narrowed her eyes. I lost track of time. It was fine. Her weariness was genuine enough, but the notes in my file said otherwise. The next morning she asked, tearful and sincere, why I'd been so cold lately, and while she spoke I slid a small, ordinary envelope across the table. Inside were 3 things she'd once asked me never to bring up in public: a printed copy of the calendar invite, the cropped selfie with a reflection, and a gentle note, "We need to be honest." Her hands shook when she opened it. I could see her trying to recite a rehearsed explanation, words like harmless, closure, and nothing happened, but I'd been building a bridge of proof, not of confrontation, and when facts met excuses the room lost tension. She tried to snatch the papers away, to make them mine, but I wouldn't let the moment blur. "If it's nothing, then show me," I said quietly. She couldn't. She had prepared for shock and fury, not for a request for truth. Over the next 2 weeks I did things people rarely see in stories because they're not cinematic. I arranged our finances so I could cover necessary living costs independent of her. I spoke to HR because she'd been getting comped meals by a man who wasn't a client but a figure in her social circle, and I quietly texted mutual friends reminding them I was not seeking drama, only honesty. The slow pull of reality was the sharpest cruelty. Where she'd expected me to beg, she found calm. Where she expected me to fight, she found planning. Word travels in small towns and within social circles like a dropped match, and soon the man from the reflection, the ex, Tom, realized the thrill had turned sour. At a weekend brunch he sent a message that, mercifully, I never read because I'd already handed that particular task to Laura. She documented the interaction and advised me not to engage. The fatal blow came not in vengeance but in consequence. Friendships she'd leaned on thinned, invitations stopped arriving, and the applause that used to follow her flirtations ceased to practice. She called me one night, voice-breaking, asking why people treated her differently. I answered truthfully, "Because you chose attention over us. Because you wanted the chase more than the home." That night she packed a bag. Not because I demanded it. Indeed, I asked only for honesty, but because the social fabric that had cushioned her was gone. Friends who once joked about her choices echoed a new refrain: "We value respect." I didn't gloat when the divorce papers were quietly signed. I walked out of our house with my dignity and a sense of something reclaimed. In time, people asked if I regretted not making a scene. My answer was simple: I had no appetite for spectacle. Revenge that reads as dignity is quieter, rearranging your life so that dependence is no longer an option, proving to yourself that self-respect can be an action, not just a feeling. Months later I saw Maya across a room at a mutual friend's dinner. She was smaller, not in body but in the way she occupied space, without the easy smile she'd worn as armor. Our eyes met, and she mouthed the question she never trusted me to ask aloud: "Do you hate me?" I didn't. I felt something steadier, relief, sorrow, and the clean knowledge that I had not been controlling when I protected my life from violation. I had simply refused to be the punchline any longer.